So I'm going to describe a bit about its history. I'm going to talk about some of the features, so like why should you use it. I'm also going to go through how you can install it. It's going to be actually a bit of an overview that, because what I'm really aiming at is to have an install fest maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week where you can bring your laptop along, we can get OpenSolaris or Linux or any Linux, other Linux distro onto it that you want. So if you want to come along, you get Ubuntu or OpenSolaris, then we can do that. So that'll be Monday or Tuesday next week. I'll send round an email, okay? So would that interest anyone?
Yes.
Hands up who it would interest. Okay, a few, okay. Well, we can do something, I'm sure. The last thing I'm going to touch on is obviously how you can keep your system current using the packaging system that's built into OpenSolaris. To be honest with you, it's taken them 3 years. It's taken them from 2005 to right now to get a really decent version of OpenSolaris out and running. Progress was really slow to begin with, okay? And so they drafted an Ian Murdoch last year, actually, from Debian, as you probably should know, to basically try and make OpenSolaris a bit more user-friendly. So, for instance, they wanted to make the install experience a bit easier, so they introduced the Cayman graphical installer. They wanted to modernize the look of the desktop as well, and also introduce a package management system that you can use to basically get apps over the network. And they've implemented that in a graphical form, and obviously you can do it from a terminal as well without any problem. So what we have now is we have OpenSolaris 2008, May. That's the first real release, actually, of it. And here it is here. You're all welcome to a copy of it, so please do come and snaffle them up at the end. When people buy hardware and when they get Solaris on it, when companies do that, Sun offers them subscriptions for support. Remember we talked about how does Sun make money if it basically open sources a lot of its product range. Well, as I say, above Solaris there's a subscription cloud that customers can tap into, and they get access to lots and lots of different types of support. The guys at Solaris will also write specific functions for them. Say if they need a more advanced monitoring tool than the one that's built in, you can get that done for you. Okay? So, as you see, OpenSolaris is quite a different beast, really. It really is kind of, there's a lot of community input into it. So there's a release every 6 months, which seems to be quite common amongst Linux distros as well, although this is Unix. So having looked at some of the differences between Solaris and OpenSolaris, it's worth also kind of looking here a little bit at how OpenSolaris compares with sort of GNU Linux. Now, in the hardware level, as you can see, Linux supports x86, x64 systems. Solaris supports those, and it also supports Spark, which is like Sun's own CPU architecture. If you look above that a little bit, what you see is that both Linux and Solaris kernel implement the POSIX specification. Now, you guys all being kind of bright programmers and people who are into Unix can tell me what POSIX is, can't you? What does POSIX stand for? Oh dear. Portable, what?
Open.
Anyone want to guess? No? Okay. Well, the Portable Operating System Interface, that's a pen for me. And that is basically the standard for defining APIs, shell, and software interfaces. So if your stuff's POSIX compliant, then that's really useful. People can develop stuff and work with your system pretty easily then. As well as that, there are some differences on the level of the kernel and the kernel modules. There are also differences in the architecture of the directory structure as well. I'm not really going to touch on those today, but I think when we come back to talk about ZFS in the new year, which is Sun's file system, it would be good to sort of compare and contrast that with the traditional Unix file system. And when we can do that, we can perhaps look a bit more at how the directory structure differs in OpenSolaris, okay, to those in Linux. Well, remember last time I was basically talking to you about, you know, why using the tools that Sun gives you, like the software and the free courses, is sort of useful. Well, it's useful, I said, because it helps you. It gives you the tools so that you can sort of do your own innovation, whether that's in the programming front or the Unix front or the web dev front, okay? So we need some good reasons then. If we're using Windows, if we're using a Mac, then why would you kind of install OpenSolaris alongside this? What can you get from it? Now, ZFS isn't someone building on another technology. Basically, it's starting from scratch with the idea of a file system and doing something quite unique with it. It gets rid of the volume manager for a start, okay? What you have is file systems and pools, okay? So it becomes possible to manage a lot of storage in a very efficient way and a really quick way. Some of the good things about ZFS are simply that it's 128-bit, okay? So you're not really going to run out of space very often. So that means it can store 18 billion times the amount of data you get in a 64-bit system. Okay. You can also take snapshots and clones with this really easily. So what it does is, it doesn't mean that. So if you want your system to be secure and stable, right? You don't have to like create a backup of all your data to an external hard drive. What you can do is you can take a snapshot of your system as it is, right? And what happens is that's stored. That data is not going to be written to anymore. But any of the data that you modify after that point is then stored in a separate location, okay? So that if you ever need to back up your system, if you ever need to, like, if you have a problem and you need to log in with the console, all you need to do is type one or two commands. You then have the old system back up and running, because it's not having to make another copy of the system. It's working with the system as it is. It's just the way it copies and writes data is something different. So ZFS is one good reason as to why you should use it.
I had a question about ZFS. Does it have any journaling support?
Does it have
journaling support?
Journaling support. Stuart might be able to tell us. I think ZFS and journaling support, Stuart?
ZFS is so vast it doesn't actually need journaling. Journaling is a special way of retrofitting safety onto a file system that wasn't actually designed to be correct at every stage of the writes. So correct ordering of block writing is why it doesn't need journaling.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So here we have the package manager, okay? And what we can do is we can refresh the list of packages using reload here, if that's what we want to do. That'll give us the most up-to-date list. We can then obviously select the category of application we want to maybe download. The buttons above are pretty useful, because if you ever get to the stage where you see you need a lot of things updated, just update all, and that'll do the complete thing for you. Here is the repository, and I've not set any other ones yet, but you can do that, and I can show you how to do that. We've just got OpenSolaris.org. I can search for bits of software that I want, for instance. So if I type in NetBeans, then I get you can see that I've got quite a lot installed there from NetBeans, but I'm able to kind of add and remove components of that as I please, basically. So it allows me a lot of control.